Hey guys, less is more here back with another video, and today I'm going to be covering a highly requested topic, which is the check raise line in a single raise pot. So what we're gonna do is look through a few check raise spots, discuss overall patterns, some bet sizing patterns, frequency patterns, and then we're going to discuss that briefly just to give you an overview, and then we're going to utilize the play versus the solution feature in GTO Plus and play a few hands, and I'll talk you guys through them to the best of my ability. So let's hop right into it. So we'll take a look at the database. This is button versus big blind. We're going to be covering four span boards and paired boards, which I have over on my other monitor. We'll do those separately. So if you haven't watched my previous videos, a four span board is a board where there's four ranks of cards that could complete a straight. So on Queen 9-2, for example, this is a four span board because an 8, 10, Jack, or King would complete a straight draw on the turn. So that's all that means. It's just a measure of how connected the board is. So let's take a look at a few check raise strategies, and really what's been requested of me is like playing later streets, because I think people are, getting used to a check raise strategy overall is not difficult, but I would say playing turns after a check raise is quite nuanced and not the easiest thing to do. So going to try to help improve your play today. So ace 9-6, small bet, high frequency from in position. Now the out of position player on a lot of these drier ace high boards, you're going to be using a polar strategy, as you will on most of these wet rag boards, like the 4-span and 6-span boards. Generally, you're going to be using a pretty polar strategy. So this is a pot size raise. Versus the bigger bets, you'll use slightly smaller than pot, like 75 or 80% is probably fine. But like, if you look at the like bigger bets, you're gonna mix more into like the half pot raise size. But in general, it looks like you're going to be going somewhere in the vicinity of like 10 big blinds at least. Like versus the half pot raise, you're going to 13 and change. Versus the pot, you're going to over 13. I'd probably just settle at like 15, just like a 3x raise. But it's still a pretty polar strategy. Like versus the pot size raise, you're gonna have like pocket 9s, pocket 6s, 9-6, ace 9. But you're not going to be check raising any ace x, because it's a pretty polar bet from in position. Like if you look at the half pot bet. I mean, that's not too helpful. Let's look at the entire thing. It's going to be the strongest ace x, like ace queen plus, and then draws like queen jack, jack 10, queen 10, queen 8, some backdoor type hands, that sort of thing. So you're not betting in position is not betting ace 5 for the half pot size. Okay. So yeah, your strategy versus that bet is going to be a polar one. Yeah, you're not check raising any like ace 4, ace 5, ace 8, that sort of thing. You should note that a lot of these bottom pair with a backdoor type hands get mixed in at a decent frequency. Like 8-6 has 5 outs to 2 pair and trips, and then a backdoor straight. Then like Ace-6 of spades and diamonds has a backdoor flush draw. So these sorts of hands should get mixed in at a decent frequency. And then 8-5 is gut shot, so it's preferring the 8-5 with backdoor. And then 6-5 with a backdoor, 6-4, bit of 6-3, that sort of thing. But yeah, your value check raises should be pretty polar. You'll see a similar thing on the other boards. On a board like King, Jack 5, you'll see out of position like check raise and King, Queen type hands. Let's see. Okay, so it's pretty much just strictly calling the King, Queen, and then just check raising the King, Jack. So yeah, overall pretty polar strategy. Again, like a bit of Ace-10 the combo draw. Yeah, and then some flush draws. But again, quite polar with the pocket fives and the King Jack and some King 5. So these on the wetter boards, you'll see the top and bottom 2 pair tend to play a bit more passively. I don't know if I've covered this in a previous video, but you'll see a lot of the time, like, so you see Jack 5 is check raising more than King 5. So King 5 gets counterfeit at a decent frequency on runner pair, or if it pairs the Jack. Also, you block the imposition calling range, whereas Jack 5 gets counterfeited a good bit, but it unblocks the imposition continuing range. So it just makes for a slightly better check raise candidate than King 5. So just keep that in mind when trying to mix frequencies here. Okay. Let's see, what do I want to look at? Oh, yeah, lower boards is probably good. 10-5-2. So this is just a half pot board. And then, so these lower boards in general, you will be using a much less polar strategy. So like, what I do is on a lot of these boards, I just go for a closer to half pot check raise, and then on the higher boards go for like 3/4 pot or pot, depending on the board texture. So like on this board, you'll be check raising like Jack 10, 10-9, Queen 10, King 10, that sort of thing, and like some Ace 5, whereas like on the other boards you don't see out of position check raising like the marginal top pair. It's mostly just because the top pair is vulnerable to an overcard. So you'll see like 10-9 check raise more than Jack 10, just because Jack 10 has the overcard to the 10. So not as many turns that fuck that hand. So yeah. Let's see what else. Yeah, these gut shots, some bottom pair with the backdoor, 5 deuce. Oh, that's 2 pair. 4 deuce. I usually see ace deuce check raise in this spot. It's possible on 2-tone boards it does it more. Okay. 7-3-2, I imagine something similar. Check, half pot. Yep, so the pocket 8s, and then like the Jack 7 plus is getting check raise at some frequency on 7-3-2 rainbow. Yeah, even hands like 7-4, 7-5 without the overcard and the backdoor flush draw are getting check raised at a pretty good frequency. But yeah, these 10-7 through A7, they're marginal top pairs. They have an overcard to the board, so they're much less vulnerable. yeah, so on these lower boards, that's a very common pattern. You'll see like 7-6 check raise more than a7, just because of the vulnerability of the hand. Okay. And then 7-6 with the backdoor is preferred. Let's see. Ace-5 with the gut shot in the overcard, getting check raised quite a bit. Okay, Jack 8-3, that lies somewhere kind of in the middle of, you know, a high and a low board, right? So there's going to be some overbetting on this board. There shouldn't be any check raising again. Oh, well, I stand corrected. There's a bit of clicking going on against the 2x pot bet, which I'm surprised about, to be honest. Looks like some middle and bottom set are getting check raised. I mean, the overbet line is mostly just overpairs from imposition, so I mean, like check raising 2 parent sets is obviously fine. It's just not what I was expecting. Okay, and then versus a half pot bet. Yeah, a little less polar, still pretty polar. Like Queen Jack and King Jack are getting mixed in there a bit. But yeah, on these Broadway high boards, the polarity of the out of position check raise strategy intensifies, per se. So let's take a look at these paired boards. So to preface this, I will say, let's see, what do I want to say about this? Your check raise frequency on paired boards is likely much lower than it should be. And to be honest, I on paired boards, when in doubt, I just check raise, because a board like Jack 6-6, the imposition player should not be range betting. Like, they should be checking back almost half the time. But I have yet to see like a reg check this board back at any decent frequency. So like when they bet, you can just check raise loads and you know, they're just gonna well, I mean, twofold, like they're not gonna continue all of this stuff like they should. All these overcard type stuff and like the King X with a backdoor, like I just don't see these floats, to be honest. So yeah, like 10-9, 10, well, okay, 10-9, 9-8 with a backdoor, 8-7. I could see 8-7, but yeah, people are playing pretty passively against a check raise. Also, in these sims, the smallest check raise size given to out of position is a 50% pot raise, which is like a bit over 3.5 times the best size. So, there's not going to be as much check raising as there should in this sim. Like, if the sim was given like a 30% pot raise, like just over a min click, there'd be a lot more check raising going on. And then after the min click, the imposition player would be doing loads of 3-betting, like for like just over a min click, that sort of thing. Also, one thing I should advise you is that, let's say you're playing in the big blind against the hijack or the low jack in a single raise pot on a paired board, the vast majority of your continues should just, like versus a small flop c-bet, should just continue as a check raise. Like you almost play razor fold, like especially facing an open from the low jack. Like if you face a 2.5 big blind open from the low jack and it's a single raise pot and you're in the big blind on a paired board, you should almost be continuing as a raise or fold because on a paired board you flop a polar range. So all that means is like on a paired board, a pair, like, okay, one way you could look at it is two pairs. So let's say you have like pocket fours on Jack 6-6 and the low jack bets a quarter pot into you. Pocket fours is a strong hand, but it needs a lot of protection. So basically the big blind flops either total air or flops a pair, which is quite a strong hand, like a jack or pocket fours or whatever. But when you call an open from the low jack, a much higher density of your range is going to be a pair or pocket pairs that make two pair on a paired board. So you're going to be continuing mostly as a check raise for protection. You'll see if you run like some low jack versus big blind single raise possums on paired boards, like the out of position player will call like 10% of its range or something and then continue like, you know, 30% as a check raise or something insane like that. So just something to be aware of. You shouldn't be doing much calling out of the big blind on a paired board. Okay, so on these paired boards, these strategies are much easier to execute. So like some Jack X, some double backdoor hands, 6X obviously, and then let's see. Yeah, some offsuit broadways with a backdoor flush draw. And you should be floating a bunch of ace high. You can start to check raise some of your worse. So ace deuce of diamonds is check raising at a small frequency, but yeah, a lot of your ace high should be continuing. And then king 9 is sort of the threshold to showdown value where like this is the worst pure showdown hand you're going to be floating without a backdoor. See, like king 7 still floats, king 5 is sort of the cutoff with a backdoor flush draw. Then all the worst showdown hands are, even with a backdoor, just folding. So the queen X, it looks like queen 5, similar thing. So you want, like if you have a backdoor flush draw, but you have 2 overs to the trips, looks like you can just continue with those and then check raise them at some frequency. Okay. A7 with a spade is a double backdoor hand, so those are going to get mixed in. Okay, just wanted to give you guys a brief overview on the, okay, so let's do a higher, let's see, king 4-4, small bet. Yeah, so on this higher board, it's just because of the rank of the top card, your check raise strategy is going to be more polar, because like imposition's going to have the nut advantage in king X, so the money you're going to be putting in for a check raise is going to be 4x. Like, you're not going to want to check raise much king X for, like, you don't need protection with king X. The only card you're scared of is an ace. So yeah, the vast majority of the money you're going to be putting in as the check raiser on this board is going to be trips. So it just makes sense that you go bigger, because that's sort of the class of hands you're representing. King 4-4, I suspect, will be a bit less polarized. Okay, yeah, because you're going to be check raising like some 4x, some middling pocket pairs for protection, and then like you have your king X obviously, but you're going to want to check raise a lot of these pairs for these middling pairs for protection, and some 4x like ace 4. So sort of the idea. Um, 10-10-10 board. I think the optimal size for imposition is half pot. Okay, yeah, so it's half pot, but check raising quads, and then some lower pocket pairs for protection. I mean, you have a boat. And then, yeah, some overcard hands. I mean, the overcard hands are just like your strongest boat draws, so keep that in mind. And then these 9x and 8x hands block so much 10x, just make for better check raises. Okay. So now on to the turn play. So for this, we're just going to play versus the solution and going to lock ourselves as the out of position player and going to get after it. This is just a check call, I believe. Ace turn, and we're just going to fold. Okay, I think this is just a pure call for out of position. Yeah. Okay. Not much to be said about that one. Bet small call, same fucking thing. Check, check. Ten on the river. So the thing is that we don't really beat much on this river. You could argue for bluffing this hand. It's just that a lot of the turn give-ups hit a pair on this river, so for imposition, so betting big with this hand seems okay. Although it might be a bit too high up in our range because we called like the small bet on the flop, so we might be over bluffing this spot if we bluff this one. I'm just going to guess and say we check this one. Okay. We somehow win there. Yeah, it just looks like yeah, all these are giving up, or well, just checking, that is. We have a lot more equity against our range than I thought we did. I mean, they have a lot of Jack X, or 10x, I mean, that hits a pair in this river, like all the queen, well, queen 10 is already a pair, but like king 10, ace 10, 10-9, well, 10-9's two pair as well. But yeah, like, a lot of the showdown hands hit a pair in that river, and yeah. I'm just not sure, like, in game, if you ever win there, because, like, if you check, there's going to bluff a lot of the hands that are worse than yours, so I'd probably just lean towards bluffing there. But again, it is pretty high up in your range. I guess I just give up. Not give up, but check that one out of position. Because you will in theory, still win sometimes. Okay. So turn probe line. Think the imposition player is going to be checking back a decent amount of Queen X, so we're not going to be wanting to probe this card for a massive size. We're just going to put our entire betting range into 1/2 pot size. This makes for a pretty good bet. I mean, towards the top of our King X range. I mean, you could mix this as a check, blocking flush draws and some gut shots that would continue, like Ace 10, 10 9, and then like the Jack 10. Well, I guess you'd want to. Well, yeah, that's a case for checking. I guess this one we'll just mix. So we rolled kind of high, so we'll just bet this one. Gonna take a look at that one. Okay, so King 10 is just mixing. Yeah, all these King X are mixing. It looks like King 9 with the 9 of spades is betting more often. So yeah, it kind of looks like splitting hairs. Okay. Oh, interesting. So you should definitely be doing some 2xing. On these double Broadway, like when the turn makes double Broadway, you don't want to be doing a lot of massive probing, from what I've seen. But yeah, some 2xing is decent for sure. Let's see. So if you think about a lot of imposition's turn folds, he's going to be checking back a lot of hands that we block, like A7, Ace 5. Yeah, so like Ace 7, Ace 5. Like these middling kicker hands don't bet as often because your hand has quite a bit of value in hitting. Like if you have A7, your hand has quite a bit of value in hitting a 7. So like if you get check raised, it's pretty disastrous because you could have just checked back and hit a good pair quite often. Ace 5, like hand isn't as valuable, so. But yeah, with 7-5 of spades, so like if you 2x, they're going to be calling Ace 7 of spades, Ace 5 of spades, but they're going to be folding. See how many combos? So like the offsuit combos. Yeah, I mean, not too much of the offsuit combos. So, you do block calls that are better than your hand, I guess. You know, since we have 7-5 of spades, we have a flush draw. We block the Ace 7 and Ace 5 of spades that would continue. So that's decent. Also, just take a harder look at the check back range. So yeah, they'll check back 7-6, 6-5 a bit. A lot of this 6x is betting. So if it goes check, check, and we 2x, we don't block many single pairs is sort of the issue. We do block a good bit of continues as far as flush draws go. So let's take a look. 7-5 of spades getting mixed, but yeah, it's going to be 2xing quite a bit. Remember, these flush draws are going into the overbet size because if you bet and get called on the turn, you want to be able to outdraw your opponent's calling range. So if you look and see like 7-5 of diamonds, if you 2x the pot with 7-5 of diamonds and get called, like you're just dead. Well, I guess you have a gut shot, but like if you hit a pair with 7-5, like you're still dead on the river. So yeah, the flush draws have a significant number of outs to outdraw the opponent's calling range. That's sort of the idea. So just for funsies, we're gonna 2x this one. What does he fold? He folds a 10. Nice. It's quite the victory. Just curious, taking a look at these calls. Okay. So just pause the video and think in your head for a second, why might ace, so if you see ace 10 is calling a bit more than king 10, pause the video and think about why that might be the case, and think about your opponent's overbetting range. So if your opponent 2x's the turn, they're going to have flush draws and straight draws, preferably the stronger straight draws. So if we look at the 2x range, out of position is 2xing a lot of king-jack, loads of king-jack offsuit with a spade, and then like this the king-jack suited. So then if you have ace 10 and the river is an ace, ace 10 hits 2 pair, but king-jack is the nuts, so you just get fucked. Because then you just pots it, and now you hit your dream river and you're still indifferent. I mean, that's like worst case scenario. So something to think about. Okay, interesting turn. Yeah, so on these top pair turns, the imposition player should be betting most of their top pair, like more than they would their middle pair. Like they're going to be betting more king x on this flop than they are 10x. So then when the turn's a king, we can do more big betting with our king x. But yeah, again, still not betting like our marginal hands like our 10x and our pocket pairs. Notice it's checking the king 3 and a bit of the pocket 3s out of position. Because when you check, they're going to check back a decent amount of 3x, 5-3, queen 3. Yeah, so imposition doesn't have a lot of 3x to begin with, but something to think about. Okay. We will 2x this one. That's all we're thinking about that. Okay, yeah, it's all the flush draws probably get mixed in there at some frequency. Okay. Anyhow. Pocket sevens. I'm going to call this one. Check, check. Not doing loads of check raising yet, but we'll get there. Nice. So this is a river we can block quite a bit, just because we're going to river a lot of strong hands with straights and trips and boats and all sorts of stuff. So it's a pretty good card for us. So no matter what size we take, like, our range is going to be relatively protected. We're going to have like just quite an array of different hand strengths. We're going to want to bet our 8x, 6x, a hand exactly like what we have, pocket sevens, you know, like some marginal ace-x, and then like we're gonna have some really strong hands like, you know, boats and 9x. So I'd probably just take like a third pot or pot strategy on the river here, I think. I might do a bit of 150% pot with some 9x. Just depends on the granularity you prefer in the strategy, but all of those things seem reasonable. But I think I'm just going to block this one. I mean, we have a pretty strong hand. It's just a matter of getting called. Okay, it looks like this is a mistake to block here on the river. Let's take a look at the strategy. So I was actually wrong. You're not going to want to bet your 8x or 6x. I was actually way off base there. I guess it's an ace-high board, so the imposition player will be checking back a lot of ace-x. So the value of your single pair hands isn't as great. Like top pair of on an ace-high board is going to get checked. Like top pair will get checked back more often than like a king-high or queen-high board because those pairs are a bit more vulnerable. So when you get to the river on an ace-high board, like these marginal pairs aren't as valuable. This was just like such a dry board, like on the 9 river, that I thought you could do a lot more betting than this. But it looks like we're checking like 2/3 of our range, so that's sort of interesting. Yeah, you're betting big with your 9x, and then let's see. Yeah, you have you know, your straights. So if you block, you get raised by a bunch of worse hands. This is sort of an interesting river spot. I think I might be betting way too much out of position in this river spot. But it looks like we want to do a lot of checking. So like the worst ace-x you're really betting is, yeah, it looks like some of these lower ace-x are betting. Checking ace-6, betting a bit of ace-7. Okay. That's interesting. King 9. So this is a pot-sized bet. So So we're not, like, our check raise frequency isn't going to be as high, but we can still definitely do some check raising. But a hand like this, I'm not sure it's going to make it in there. It doesn't have a backdoor. I mean, it'll make it in there at some frequency. We're pretty close to the top of our range, actually. We're not going to have any overpairs on this board. Maybe we should be check raising this. Yeah, I'm going to go for a check raise. Okay, what's the check raise frequency on this? So if in position pots it, okay. Ace-9 is where you start check raising a lot more, but it's mostly top pair with the flush draw. Looks like. The other top pair is probably fine to check raise, but yeah, just top pair mostly with the flush draw. Interesting. Okay. Flop a gut shot. So we're just going to mix this hand, but for the sake of the video, I will be giving him the business. So on this board, after a check raise, let's take a look at a couple turns. A 6 turn. This is like a total brick. We're just remaining polar on the turn after a pot size check raise, and we are just potting it to set up for, what is it, like a half pot river jam? Or, I'm sorry, not a half pot, it's like 85% or something. Okay. But yeah, it's just like pot on the turn. On a more connected card, you're going to be sizing down. Jack. Yep, so this is a card where both players have a good number of nutted hands. So like, let's take a look at the right hand side. So on this turn, the out of position player has, let's see, 25, like a bit under 30% of 2 pair plus, and the in position player has, yeah, a decent bit of nutted hands. And then, so, well, as far as, let's see, 25, 26. So pretty similar to the out of position player. The out of position player has slightly more, but they're both pretty close. Then on the 6, the out of position player has like 30% of 2 pair plus, and then the in position player has like 10%. So it's quite the disparity, because no straights come in. Yeah. But on these cards where both players make a good bit of nutted hands, not going to be wanting to put, you know, many huge bets in. Okay. On the 10, imposition is going to have slightly less well, quite a bit less of straights. Okay. Check, check. On this turn, we're going to be doing a lot of blocking. We're going to turn some straights. So if you look at the strategy here in the top left, we're going to be putting in some big bets with I mean, we're gonna have a lot of sets on this turn as well. And then some straights is really what we're going to be putting the huge bets in with. Let's see. So 6-3 is the straight. And then we'll have 4s, 5s, and 7s that we're going to be putting in some big bets. But a lot of single pair hands. So this is sort of a hand that would make sense to block. And we get raised. So we have a gut shot with this hand. So a hand like 9-7, I think I'd be more apt to fold. And we don't have a spade, so seems like a pretty good candidate to call. Terrible river. He just jams, and we're going to fold. He has a king jack with a spade. So he raised big. So we have 8-7. Yeah, so we're just pure calling this. It's always nice to be right. Double backdoor issue is like our hand is pretty shit, but and like the straight draws we have, like the straight draw is pretty bad. I think I'm gonna lean towards folding this. Yeah. Okay, it looks like all these hands are just folding against the small bet. Oh, yeah, like on these wet boards, like you have to think, like even versus a small bet, if you hit a pair, would you be able to value bet on any street if you just hit like one pair? Like if you have like say like 10-8, you have a pretty strong gut shot. But also if you like hit a 10 and turn goes check check, you can block the river or even half pot with a 10 and feel pretty good about it. King 10-3 versus the half pot. This is one of the hands that's going to start to fold without a spade. Sixes with a spade would probably mostly call, but this is going to mostly fold, I think. Let's take a look. Yeah, so sixes with a spade is calling, and then sixes without a spade is starting to fold. These sorts of hands, I just, like these pocket pairs without a spade, I just lean towards fold. Versus the smaller bet, I think you just call. Yeah, you're just calling all of these, but against the half pot and the pot size, you just pure fold them pretty much. Yeah. Check, check, turn jack. Going to want to bet a lot of one pair hands. This is a pretty good hand to mix into a bet. I mean, we block a lot of checkbacks with the king, like the king high that would check back. See, we don't have a club, so like if we check, he's gonna do more betting, I think. So I'm gonna guess and say we check this mostly, but bet maybe 30 to 40% of the time. Okay, so we're actually betting more often without a club. I guess we just unblock continues. Okay. It looks like it's really close, though I wouldn't pay much attention to that. But if we check, in position is going to stab a lot of these queen high with a club, jack high with a club. So if you had like jack 9, I would bet that makes a good difference. Yeah. So here Jack 9, because imposition has like the 10-9, Jack 9, Queen 9 that would stab with a club, then if you have Jack 9, you're checking without the club because you'll face a bet more often. Whereas if you have King Jack, it doesn't really make that much of a difference because the imposition player doesn't have as much offsuit King X that they're going to check back with the club, because they're just going to check back their King High anyhow. Like King 9 is where they start to stab, but like they're checking back their King 10, King Queen, and they have the offsuit combos of those, so it makes up a pretty good portion. Whereas like the Queen High, like pretty much all the Queen High, they're just starting to stab. But yeah, like the 10-9, Jack 9, Queen 9. So something to think about. So this one, so I see there's a 4x range on this board. I guess it's just sets and 2 pair. So yeah, like Jack 7, some Jack 3, Jack 2. But it looks mostly like sets and bottom 2 pair. So like the bottom 2 pair unblocking the continuing range is pretty good. And then you're just like mixing in these gut shots for bluffs. And then you can block a lot of these marginal pairs on this turn. Like your marginal Jack X, like all your 1 pair Jack X hands are just blocking this turn. Let's take a look at the other Broadway cards. So on the Queen, yeah, so like the higher the card, like the less you're gonna bet, because like you're just gonna face a bet more often from imposition. Like if the turn's an ace, you're just gonna, like, you're not gonna do much betting, and you're just gonna face a bet like quite a bit. So not much point in betting. Notice on this ace turn, it's pretty much like a perfectly polar strat, where you have like your 4x pot or check, and it's just like your 2 pair and sets and like your bluffs. Just like the Queen 4, Jack 4, 10 4. Because like if you 2x, like you block the 5 4 that continues, or if you 4x, I mean you block the 4x that continue, or the 5 4 that. Oh, I'm sorry. 5 4 is a straight. So okay, that makes a lot more sense why this. Okay, I did not realize the wheel came in. So all these hands are gut shots. So when there's a straight on board, when you 4x pot, you generally want to shift your bluffing region to your gut shots. Yeah, especially when there's like, when you have like a perfectly polar strategy like this. If there wasn't a straight on board, you would just lean towards your gut shots. Well, I mean, these are gut shots, but your other gut shots. Okay. So we'll check this one, face a bet, check call turn. You will be snapping off a river. Pretty much everything got there. Sort of interesting. And we face a 2x pot bet. So I'm gonna fold this. Like we're gonna have the King Jack with a club. We're going to have the Jack 5, Jack 4. I mean, even a hand like 6 5 or Queen Jack with a club, Jack 10 with a club. We're gonna have a lot of Jack X, offsuit Jack X with a club that can call. So I think I'm gonna fold this. Okay, it looks like this is just a pure call. I mean, this is obviously a very strong hand, very like close to the top of our range. I did not think it would be that far off though. sort of interesting. Okay, well, he had what? Yeah. So if we face a 2x pot bet, so Queen Jack is where we start to fold. Obviously preferring Queen Jack with a club. Huh. Yeah, we're gonna have the offsuit Jack 10. Sort of interesting. And then yeah, like Jack 5 as well. Yeah, 6-5 is just a pure call with the one pair and the straight blocker. Gonna have 7-6, 6-3, even A6. So see the imposition 2x range, what does that look like? Well, that's flushes mostly, and then some 5-4, but yeah, I mean the main combos we're concerned with after the bet on the turn are the flushes. Yeah, it's even like versus 2x pot, it's even calling some ace high with the club and the 5, the flush and the straight blocker. So that's sort of interesting. Gonna try to work in a few more check raises. I know that's what this video is supposed to be about, but you know, on this turn, prefer to have a gut shot. We do have a club, but we don't, like if we 4x the turn, we don't really have any pair outs if we get called. I mean, we do have 2 overs to the 7, which is pretty good. So I suppose this could be a candidate. I think it's just like it has a bit too much showdown value to want to stab at a high frequency. With the club, it probably does sometimes. Let's take a look. Okay, yeah, so Queen 10, Queen Jack, or so Queen 9 is really where the showdown value gets shitty enough to start stabbing, but Queen 10 and Queen Jack are sort of the showdown value thresholds. If you are going to stab, you'd much rather have the club. Obviously, with the Queen 9, you can see that the club combos are starting to stab. Yep. Okay. Then Ace 5 is the gut shot with the club blocker. Small bet, just gonna fold. Check, check. This turn, imposition is going to check back a lot of 8x. Yeah, we'll just half pot this one. Oh, interesting. Again, a lot of half potting on this middling paired turn. And we're just going to check down and hope to win. Okay. So face a small bet on a6-3, there's just a fold. Versus the pot raise, low frequency check raise with this hand, but mostly just gonna call. Check on the turn. Well, we're going to river a lot of straights and flushes, so this is sort of a river where if we have a hand like Queen Jack, we're not going to be wanting to bet massive, just because, I mean, he has a lot of strong hands to defend with on this river, so betting huge doesn't make a lot of sense. I think I'm just going to half pot this one. Also, I have the training mode on, so if I make a suboptimal decision, it will tell me when I click on the... Okay, 10-7. I'm going to check raise this one. Okay, it looks like this is just a pure fold, which I'm... Oh, this is a half pot bet, actually. Yeah, versus the half pot, it's just a fold. Okay. Versus the quarter pot, yeah, that's where it starts to get called in check raise. So that's sort of the threshold, it looks like. Yeah, it's just a pure fold versus the half pot, so keep that in mind. Just gonna check folds. King, queen, going to check raise this one. Queen 10, check fold. With a spade, you can start to mix calls and raises. Jack 8, check, ace. So this is a turn where, with this hand specifically, we can definitely do some 4xing. Okay. And now we make a boat. So we'll be wanting to mix some checks and bets with this hand. We'll be checking this river a lot just because once we get called on the turn, he's going to have top pair and trips. So like his range is going to be relatively strong. What I'm not sure of is I don't think if we check the river, he's going to be betting much ace-x because we 4x the turn. Let's take a look at that. So he's actually betting a lot more ace-x than I thought he would. So when we check, imposition's betting a lot of ace-king, ace-queen, even ace-10, ace-9, which is interesting to me. Just because the 4x on the turn is pretty polar. But yeah, I mean, ace-8 does get counterfeit, so there's like those higher ace-x does beat ace-8. It's like ace-8 is just a check on the river, so which makes up a pretty decent portion of the range. So this is probably gonna get checked a decent bit with the 8 blocker. Oh, interesting. Okay, so jamming is slightly better. Okay. Get called by ace-king. Okay, so Jack 8 is a pure jam. Then it looks like 8-8 is the trap. It looks like. So if you check, you want to block as many checkbacks as possible if you have the nuts. So if you have like pocket 3s or pocket 8s, You block queen 3, 5, 3, and then pocket 8's blocks queen 8, 10, 8. That would check back. Okay. So the eights and the pocket 8s and pocket 3s just double blocks those checkbacks, whereas Jack 8 doesn't do so as much. Also, Jack 8 blocks trips, which would bet into you a lot, so I think just leaning towards betting that hand actually makes a lot of sense. I thought it would mix, but considering that you have pocket 8s and pocket 3s in your range, it actually makes a lot more sense to check those hands. Queen 10. Not going to be betting that turn much. Then check, check on the turn. Stalling out on me here. There he goes. King River. Ugh. I guess we just block this hand and hope for the best, but it doesn't feel great. Okay, we can call by 7. Okay, Queen 10, Queen Jack, blocking. And but that's like the bottom of, like Queen 10 is like the bottom of the single pair Queen X range. It's betting the river, so. Okay. A6 with a spade. 2x is the turn. Yeah, if we face a bet on the river, this is a pretty good hand to call, considering we have the 6. So if like face a jam. Wait, how big is that jam? Wait. Oh, that's like a 3x pot jam. Face like a pot bet, a6. A6 is a decent call, I guess. I guess Imposition would bet most of their 6-5 on the flop, so maybe it's not that great. If you know your opponent is just pure betting 6-5, the open ender on the flop here, having that straight blocker on the river isn't so great. I thought this would be a better call, facing the jam or the pot bet, but it doesn't look to be so much that way. I think if it was like ace queen 4 and the turn was a 7 and then imposition bet, I think, you know, where they turned the open ender, and you called this hand, I think this is a much better call. Okay, quarter pot bet, check, check. Going to be checking most rivers. Okay. So this is just a card where we're gonna have like some strong hands like 2-pair and straights. And then we're gonna have like a bunch of like marginal 1-pair hands that don't want imposition ace high to check back. I think this is not. I don't think this is quite strong enough to bet. Like ace 5 could probably block, but I don't think this is. Yeah, okay. Like, yeah, queen 5 is checking, and then yeah, even ace 5 isn't. Yeah, you don't really start betting until you get to your 8x. So. Check, check, turn ace. Remember your strategy on this card out of position should be pretty polar. We haven't been playing many check raise lines in this play versus the solution, but hopefully this is helping. We've been recording for like over an hour, so this is pretty good stuff. Again, in the check line, you know, stalling a bit. So, yep, just going to yeah, I guess you want to reserve your blocking for the Queen X. And then just half pot your ace X. Okay. Is that sort of what's going on? Okay. Yeah, half potting or checking your ace X. And then, yeah, like blocking your Queen X is sort of what's going on there. Looks like it's checking ace-8 a lot. So if you check, imposition is checking back. Pocket 8s, king 8, some queen 8. So generally when you see a hand that is bet for like a bigger size and then checking a lot, it means that like the hand blocks a lot of imposition checkbacks, so it will get bet into more often and be able to call. Whereas if it just bets itself, it's not going to get as much value. So I'm curious, like, does ace-8 block a lot of imposition checkbacks, like their air checkbacks? Blocks king-8, but I mean, I guess ace-9 is checking a good bit too. Yeah, I mean, imposition is checking back a lot of king-8, some queen-8, some pocket 8s. Yeah, I guess some king-8 off as well. So sort of interesting. Okay. I mean, if you bet, the calling range okay. Yeah, I can't identify it off the top there, but anyhow, don't want to go down the rabbit hole on a video. Okay, on this lower board, since we're not getting many check raises in, I'll just kind of brute force this. 10-5-2, half pot. Big raise, call, turn 8. Yeah, so out of position has a lot of top pair, 2-pair sets. So 22%, 23% 2-pair plus. In position less than 10%. I mean, that's just the nature of the check raise line. The out of position player should have, you know, a much higher density of nuts, because the in position player is just bluff catching the vast majority of the time. Yeah, it's just these lower boards when you check raise your top pair. Like you're not going to want to bet massive with a hand like you know, king 10 or ace 10, because then you're just getting called by the nuts. Let's go with some other turns, see if that remains the case. I suspect on some cards where, yeah, okay. So the 6 is a card where like the out of position player has a lot of 4-3 that the in position player doesn't. So the out of position player will have, you know, a pretty big advantage in straights, whereas the in position player doesn't have any straights at all. So the out of position player can sort of attack that and mix in some big bets with 2-pair and straights. On a deuce, on a 5, yeah, sort of all hovering around half pot. On the 10, the betting frequency should go down a lot because the in position player turns a lot of trips and will just bet into a lot. Yeah, I mean, in position's even betting like a lot of 5x for a small size on the turn. Okay, and then on these overcards, let's see, ace, king, queen, jack. Interesting. The ace is the highest bet card. I mean, you do have like a lot of ace 10. See the check rate. Let's see the. So the check raise range is this pretty much. It's a lot of gut shots. Oh, I see. The ace is okay. That's what was confusing to me. So the ace brings in the wheel draw. So the 4-3 turns a straight. Okay, that would make a lot more sense. I was not sure why out of position was betting this card on the turn so much. Yeah, the wheel comes in, which, you know, out of position will be check raising a lot of open enders that turn the straight here. And out of position should be floating a decent amount of ace high. And, you know, they're going to have like the 2-pair on the turn, so betting a lot on that turn doesn't make sense unless, you know, the out of position player has a straight that the in position player doesn't, which it definitely does. Whereas like on the king, like the in position player won't be floating as much king high as much as ace high, but no straight comes in, and the, let's see, yeah, so these Broadway cards should not be bet as often if the in position player is floating those ranks of hands, because then you can just check and they'll just bet into you for you. Okay. Let's see, ace queen 9. Check, pot. Not much check raising. King 3-2. Check. Small bet. Again, a polar strategy on the 2. Let's see, what about the ace? Yeah, again, betting a decent amount on the ace with the 5-4. And then on the 6, you'll be sizing up because you have the 2, 3, 4. Yeah, okay, yeah. So you'll be sizing up like to a more polar strategy. Like both players have 5-4. Out of position will have slightly more with the 5-4 off. Not a lot, but a tad. But you, like, if you check, you won't get bet into as often as you would on the ace, because the imposition player should be floating some ace high versus your check raise, so they'll just bet into you. But on this card, you know, you're just going to want to pile money in yourself with the top of your range. And then remember to mix in some checks with hands like pocket threes. And yeah, pocket sixes is just a pure check, blocking imposition checkbacks. Okay, let's take a look at one more board and then we will call it a day. So I think King Queen 3 is a pretty interesting board. Check, small bets, raise, low blank, probably a pot size bet on the turn. Yep. You're continuing to bet with your King Queen, a bit of King Jack, your gut shots. And then on a more connected card like a Jack, this is where things get a bit more nuanced. So both players will have straights, right? So out of position has 10% of straights. I mean, that's quite a high density, but in position will have also a good bit as well, considering they're calling all of the ace 10 probably. Yeah, they're not folding any ace 10 to the check raise. So both players will have a good number of straights on this card. So you can't just like bomb it with all of your King X or whatever. So you'll start to size down. Turning some Jack X into a bluff, blocking the ace 10 and the King Jack. Okay, then a queen. Yeah, notice you're not betting this card much. Let's see, a king. Again, not betting much. Then like a low brick, yeah, you're just polarizing. On a 10, yeah, again, you're starting to split. Like, you're not going to want to bomb it with King Jack. Okay. Then A9. You're not going to be doing much more blocking. It's going to be a half pot or pot. On this turn, I would just use one. Well, actually, no. I think this is actually a good spot to split into a half pot and a pot size, because King Jack is decidedly better in the half pot size than the pot size. Like if you pot, you're not like a lot of the worst King X is starting to fold, but if you just half pot, like you're getting calls from like a lot of the Queen X and King X and like even 9x, like 10-9 and Jack 9 with the gut shot and things. Yeah. What was the ace again? Yeah, okay. So this is a board where a lot of ace high is a gut shot, right? So the imposition player will be floating, you know, ace 10 and then like a lot of ace high. This is a lot more ace high than I thought should float, to be honest. Okay, it looks like the offsuit ace high is folding. But yeah, a lot of the ace high with, especially with a backdoor, is calling. So yeah, when raise. Oh, okay. No, I'm a dumbass. That was the okay. See, that makes a lot more sense. So this is the out of position response to the in position quarter pot bet, and then versus a check raise. Imposition is calling ace 10, ace jack, ace queen, ace king, and ace 3. So when the turn's an ace, we're going to get bet into much more often, so just not as much incentive to bet. And then imposition is just doing a bunch of small betting with their ace x, and I don't know why it's betting so much with queen x. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Denial bets, I suppose. It's odd, but yeah, I mean, when it's a quarter pot bet, I mean, it's it's kind of whatever to bet that small with a third pair. Okay, that's all I have for you guys today. If you have any questions, definitely leave those in the comments. If you have any questions about hands I played on this video, definitely let me know. And until next time, I'll see you later.